G'day everyone, welcome along, welcome to Steelhorse Station. Hope you have all had a great weekend. Hi John, I see you there bright and early today. Excellent Grand Prix I saw when I woke up this morning. One of the more entertaining to watch that we've had for a long time. And we are heading off to Silverrun right now. Let me just make sure everything looks like it's working fine. We can turn that off. Now, what was I thinking of doing here? We're in September. And let's see there, plenty of animals. Food they could do with a little bit more. There's no milk because I just did a run down with the milk. But we might. So here's the crop situation. So I've got all of the wheat off. And the oats, I decided to just get those done. The soy and the corn is not ready, nor is the sugar beet. Sugar beet's not an issue because we're still processing last year's, truth be told. Yeah, so it's still moseying through the sugar beet cut. So that's okay. And that's getting sent directly to both the small dairy and the ice cream production. Now, the small dairy is out of milk, so we can't make any more chocolate until we get some milk. And we are making strawberry ice cream because I put all the milk into the ice cream factory. So we're getting a bit low on strawberries too, but they'll just keep trickling along. So all in all, that's all going fine, but it's too early. What's the crop coming to say? We're in, yeah, so it won't be until next month that we can get corn and soy, and sugar beet for that matter. So what I'm thinking is we might jump down here. Where did I get to? I don't want to lease the harvester that we want for the hillsides any earlier than necessary. Coming in here, I got that field all baled up. This one is not done. So I think what we might do, a little bit of baling. Certainly do the little field over here in the corner. Welcome along. There's a few folks popped in. Great to see you. Hope it was a fun weekend for all. I did watch Oh, excellent, Jack Sarge. I'm glad it's the spot for you. It was, I'm quite proud of it, even though it's by comparison with the work of more mainstream modders, it's very trivial, but it solves just a little irritation that's been with me for the whole time I've played. So I'm glad I was able to share it with others. I'm working on another one which is a little bit more sophisticated in concept, but I don't want to jinx myself and talk about that until I'm actually proved the idea will work. It's promising but not proven, I think, is the short answer. But as I was just noted to John right at the my next mod will be for FS22. Contrary to all the hype and the popular opinion, FS25 doesn't actually exist yet. And whilst I may be a relative newcomer, and this may be heresy in the overall world of Farming Simulator, until it ships, I don't think we really know what it's going to be. So, and based on a sample of one being my purchase of FS22 a couple of days before Christmas and a month after it shipped back in December 2021, I have somewhat modest expectations for FS25 and think that there'll be plenty of time in its life to worry about mods for it, and that if there are clever ideas, then we might as well all share them and continue to have fun with FS22, because one of the interesting things that I observe about FS22 the same, and it's kind of related to what I was just about to say, Jack Sarge. It's not that I'm disappointed about FS25. That would be incorrect as well. All I'm saying is I've been in the IT industry my entire career, and I know hype when I see it, and there's plenty of it. And you know, marketing guys used to say it's very important not to let the facts get in the way of a good story. So that's okay. There are some interesting things being talked about, and we'll deal with them in the fullness of time. I did find it interesting, and I look forward with quite a lot of interest, because we've got a chance of getting some first-hand commentary from Mark Haythornwaite when he gets back, to hear what he thought and saw, and he will have looked with a somewhat technical eye over what was what. G'day Grant, welcome in. But actually I thought that whilst FarmCon looked to be good and interesting, of the couple of clips that I've seen, both from Mr. Sealy P and the little half-hour thingo that Farm Sim Guy and Argsy did, whilst they were all having a good time and getting very excited about a bunch of stuff, there was actually seemed to be very little new content about FS25 itself. So there was elaboration that was helpful, but when it comes to, and you know, that didn't strike me as a bad thing. Let's be clear about that. It was more just, it felt to me like a big part of what, yes, we saw Mark on Argsy and FSG's clip, but to take up space in the background, take a bit of a bow for his mod. What we saw just looked to me a bit part of a of a 5-month plan, which is, you know, we'll talk about we'll build the house from the foundations up. So, you know, we'll spend a little bit of time talking about things we've done to the engine, which is pretty much all they've done for the last couple of weeks. We'll tease clips of little things that might be interesting, but beyond that, I don't think we've learnt anything about how the farming side of the game will work, save for the addition of a rice crop, and a rice crop that requires saplings grown in a greenhouse. Okay, that's pretty cool, but not enormously different to what we have. I mean, it's not a great stretch to say, well, okay, you could grow your potatoes, seed potatoes in a greenhouse and then plant them in a field. So concept's pretty good. What will be interesting is how all those things are implemented. And beyond that, a bit of reference to GPS and the AI. Okay, also good things. So I await further news and demonstration. I think it's the gameplay footage of a sort. It's more like cinematic examples that they've shown look pretty good. So there's some promising stuff there, and I suspect if it follows in the path that they've already demonstrated, there'll be enormous scope for modders to do things. But equally, there could be a few teething issues when the game first comes out, and it could take a little while for mods to be converted over, depending on how they've implemented some of these things, and given that there's usually a fair lack of documentation. So kind of look at that, and that's a very long way round to your original comment, Jack Sarge, which is, I think there's plenty of scope left for FS22 that we can have some fun with, and we should watch with interest what gets talked about with FS25, but not get too carried away at this point, would be my view. It should suffice to know that the future is healthy. There's a revised version of the game coming, and we can look forward to it next year, would be my kind of pragmatic, précis. And I guess another thing that's informing my my point of view, which wouldn't be so readily apparent, so I've spent probably 6 hours, maybe even 8 hours in the last few days having a look at, thanks Jack Sarge, at Farm Sim Briscoe's revision to the Oaks. And you know, there is, if you add that to, I've also been watching, you know, as they've sort of been posted, a lot of Mr. Sealy P's Maps I Missed series, and what it serves to illustrate, looking at it from a slightly different perspective, is there are heaps of really good maps around at the minute, and why, this is the question I ask myself, why would I stop doing anything, stop having fun, stop entertaining myself, waiting for something that's imaginary when I can reach out and touch something that's real, that is really good and entertaining. And you know, FSB's map is a really good example, and I'm hoping that, well, it is my intention when he's ready and finished, because he's still working on some bits, that we will, I think, comfortably consume the time between now and FS25 coming, playing out a streaming series on there, because he's outdone himself, quite frankly. It was because I had a good series that I enjoyed. The original Oak series I did with the Putneys captured my imagination. So when I first opened the new map, it was a bit good and bad, because it was a little bit confronting that some of the things that felt like home and that I really liked from the first map weren't there, or were different. And it's not because it's radically changed, it's just that Tamsin Briscoe's moved on and he's developed more skills, and he's, you know, experimenting with some stuff, and he's just done a really good job. But as I started to develop the story for how I want the stream to go, because it's a bit more sophisticated than the first one, and I started to, because the new story is kind of set 10 to 15 years on from the original, so they've saved Harold's farm, the kids this is, and they've, you know, grown up and they're heading in their own directions. So as a result, they've got multiple farms going in the area now, some better than others, and there is so many directions to play, and that allows us to expand the gameplay over the whole map. And I'm regularly reminded how huge a 4X map is when you try and use it for a stream or a series, because everything just takes longer. And this one, you know, there's neat detail and opportunity to do that. So I'm quite confident that we can run several months worth of a streaming series, and it not be repetitive, because we'll have multiple farms. It'll feel, you know, some weeks it'll feel like we've just gone to a different map. So, you know, they're the sorts of things that are behind my sort of current view on things. So it's not that I'm unexcited about the future, it's that I'm not wishing for tomorrow before today's finished. I'm not sure yet, Jack Sarge. I hope I don't do him a disservice, but I think he's feeling a bit tired, and building a big detailed map takes an enormous amount of attention to detail and time and effort. So it's kind of, you know, it's a babe. All you would know from your miniatures painting, it's absorbing, and so it feels a bit like he's had a second job for the last 8, 9, 10 months, building another creation. And in some respects he's running into the hype train, which is FS25, and wondering if anybody will bother to look at his map. And, you know, has he wasted his time, and should he just wait until FS25 comes out? And so he's got a whole bunch of questions, which are entirely understandable and reasonable. And I hope he just puts it out there. And one way he could do it is just release it to Giants for the for PC, and that way at least it's a controlled download. It'll be it's about 1.1 gigs, so that gives you an idea of the content, and there are no required mods. He shares it with me via his Google Store, and I know he shared it with a couple of other content creators. But I'm kind of more playing a testing role than anything else. I don't believe I could do it justice with a map tour. Hopefully Argsy and or FSG will be able to find the time to do that in the coming weeks. So I'm sure we'll find a way to safely distribute it when the time comes. And I'm expecting, if I was a betting man, that that'll be sometime in August. If he has everything go the way he wants, earlier in August rather than later in August. I think he'd like to make it in July, but it's just going to depend on life, what it throws at him, and when he stops tinkering. So that's all that I know on those things at this stage. I think it was encouraging to because that, you know, kind of, you sit back, that might, whilst it's pragmatic, it might sound a little bit negative. I don't intend it to be negative. It's just a kind of an appraisal. I think it's a positive thing that, from what I can understand, Giants had 3,500 people show up for FarmCon. So, which basically sold out completely all their tickets. So that's a promising sign. That suggests the future of the game is at least strong. And I did find it interesting that a common comment amongst the content creators that were reporting was how proud the developers they spoke to were of things that they were doing. And in my experience with developers and development teams, that's a promising sign. It doesn't mean that magically everything will be perfect, but you got people that are proud of their work. That's a good thing. We have tons of straw. So we need to decide what we're going to plant for next year on here. We ended up with, because we're about halfway through the harvest at the minute. So we've got 160,000 litres of wheat sitting in the store. So we'll sell that in January for a good price, and we'll make Paige happy and pay a good amount off the mortgage, at least 100k, I think. The barley we keep for making seeds, so that's all right. We've also got coming up towards 50k of oats. So I'm thinking we need a handful of that, 6,000-7,000 for the horse feed for the horses we adjust. So we can just sell the rest of that when the time comes, and they'll get a handy little price as well. All the sugar beet's going to make sugar, which is going into ice cream. We'll make as much ice cream as we can sort of before the end of next month, and then we'll sort of shut down the ice cream factory or put it on minimal through the winter and arc it up again next spring. We'll just leave the strawberries producing. Honey seems to be coming at a fairly regular clip, and we'll probably get some surplus at some point that we can sell. And then, of course, we're going to have a volume of corn off those 4 fields somewhere between these two amounts. So that combined with manure slurry, that's one thing we could probably do, is in preparing these fields, it probably wouldn't hurt to spread some slurry, would it? As a way to keep our fertilizer costs down. Lime's not too bad. If we threw out a little bit of slurry, that's probably a good idea. Oh, I sampled all of that field, and it looks like with the rollover of the month, the other half of the riding school pasture needs sampling. How bizarre. Okay, well, we'll go and do that in a minute. That's why we've got as it turns out, while we have the soil tester on the front of the tractor. The other thing that I'm working up to giving a go, if we jump into the shop for a minute. We probably should buy that. Yeah, there we go. Let's grab that while we're there. That's typical Jake. Very opportunistic. Do we need the bureau? No. Is the short answer. What I came in here for was Jake saw this advertised and wants to give this a go at some point. So it's you buy concentrate fertilizer. Not interested in it from a herbicide standpoint, but from a fertilizer standpoint, you buy concentrate and then you mix with water, and it gives you a fertilizing solution. So I kind of felt that might fit in quite well, but that might be next year. I think. Don't know if anybody's got any experience with, I think this is a BC Bueller's mod. Looked pretty cool in Mr. Sealy P's review of it. What else have we got here? Yeah, oh, that's what I wanted to ask. Does anybody... Do I have it on here? Did I download it? Doesn't look like I did. Bugger. I have it on... So there's a Bailey bale trailer that released recently, and it's fairly cool. Looks, let me see if I can't easily find it. I don't have a ModHub screen handy at the minute. Anyway, I was using it as I was fiddling around on the Oaks for the first time, and it's got an auto stack feature, and that's all well and good. A little bit of mouse control to move the bales. Do you reckon I can unload the bales? Not on your life. So I can get the bales onto the trailer. I can put the trailer in the operating position. I can reset them. I can use the mouse to move the stack of bales beside the trailer. Do you think I can get the trailer to release the bales on the ground? Not on your life. So I'm prepared to accept that there's something really basic that I'm not thinking about. But I tried every mouse click keystroke that I could think of, control key combination, what have you, and I could not get the bales to detach from the trailer, which was very irritating. Because I needed the hay that was there to feed the cows. Right, we're just about, we're getting close. We haven't finished. So what I'm thinking we might do, I don't know if we could reliably get a tractor on the slurry doing that other field before we sort of thinking of putting the slurry on and then mulching it and potentially cultivating it. But I don't think we could get a worker. I've got Jake paying a worker now, so that's a straight monthly fee. I think I set it at $3,000 a month. Using the same mod we used to, so the daily deductions mod, if you haven't seen that before, which I'll show you when we go back up to the main farm. This is all going fairly smoothly. Welcome along. If you've popped in, great to see you. Thanks for joining us. So McLaren made a couple of mistakes, John. Unusually as a team, they've been in pretty reliable and consistent for the last little while. Unusual for them to make, in my view, to make multiple errors in a day. I think you could make a reasonable case that cost Norris the chance of a win and Piastri the chance of a podium, although they were different things. But there was also some pretty good driving in what would have been very difficult conditions, I thought. Across the field, in fact. And I'm going to stand by my prediction that unfortunately Checo might have the shortest contract extension in history. Yeah, it's hard. That carbon fiber's sharp, and I didn't realize that the pressure they run at the British Grand Prix is the highest at 28 psi is the highest pressure they run anywhere. When it was explained, I understood why, but I don't know realistically that you can armor plate the exterior of the tire. Grant would probably know more about those sorts of things. Right. One more row to go. And then we're done here. Pretty handy. Good job. I was talking about crops before. One of the things I'm thinking of doing is, we'll put slurry on the field over there in front of us, but potentially just in order, in favor of the crop rotation. Nice try, Grant. I think that is your answer. What I was thinking of doing with the crop, so I'm thinking of putting grass in as a cover crop over the winter, and then potentially picking one of oat or soybeans to put in down here next year. On at least 2 of these fields. So be interested in what people's points of view are there. Now, oops. Let's try you, unload you. We're going to put you back in the garage for the moment, I guess. And we'll do that, sample that field while we're at it. Did you watch the race, Grant? And did you enjoy it if you did? Not you. Let's try you and you. I did not see that, John. I must admit, the advantage of using my son's streaming service is that I get up to have breakfast and I fast forward all of the annoying bits so that I just watch the race. Interesting, in the mini map it doesn't show me where it's run out. I think that's about there. Yep, it is. Well, I certainly don't have the depth of watching experience, Grant, but I enjoyed it. I thought it was a fun race to watch. Particularly relative to others in the recent past. Let's get those done. Let's whack you back in the garage. garage. Oop. Let's try the correct button. And there we go. Now, what does that tell us? That tells us they're all done. So let's go back up the top. So we can pick up after. Reason for doing the grass as a cover crop as much as anything else over the winter is that just gives us a way to load up on a heap of hay and silage to feed our growing beef cattle. I finally picked up the fertilizer from the shop. Let's fold you up. Now, oops. Right, oops. Do it again. That's better. Now I'm going to move that milk tanker out the way because I can't do that other job with that there. Yeah, I haven't disabled the... There's a service in the game that links out, which irritates me, but I haven't bothered to disable it. Now, this guy, let's see here. I want you to go and fill up with mixed ration 3 times is correct. Drive to loading point. What are you waiting for? You got nothing in you. Okay, should feed. Ah, that's the problem. You need to go to TMR mixer fill. There you go. That's better. Now you're gonna drive. While you're driving, we can pull you out of the way. Got a bit of a tendency to over rev in reverse this Mac. You up there. Now I'm tipping, in fact, that trailer. Let's do that before he gets back. I reckon that trailer might be in the way. We're done with this guy until the soybeans ripen. like Pleasant View's little sticker up there on the side. Let's make everything nice and clean. If you have any interest in Pleasant View's mods, the Allis and the Gleaner you can get from his itch page. And let's take you off there for a second. Let's move that headed trailer before somebody runs into it. And we're going to put it, he says. Let's just pop it over this side. It should be out of the way. We can stick the head up back in the shed, and then everything will be sort of a little tidier. Got plenty of newer there. Maybe we should go and sell that at some point to the BGA, because we don't have a muck spreader. What are you? Oh, the ute's in the way. That's what happens when you don't mark stuff properly. If I was just tidier, it'll all be good. Jake's been thinking about buying Paige a new truck, but hasn't actually made a decision. The 350 might be a bit of overkill. Where are we here? Turn you on. How far this will go, but just looking to top up the fertilizer levels a fraction. And then we can mulch it. Welcome along. Someone else popped in. Hope you had a good weekend. If you've got any questions, just sing out. There are a few folks in chat doing their own thing. In addition to the Tour de the F1, I have been watching bits of the Tour de France. which I find quite entertaining. These days the Australian broadcast team do quite a good job. The pretty much entirely tour level riders. One lady and 3 or 4 blokes. It does look like a dog wagging its tail, that's true. Silver dog. There we go, he's got a load of TMR from the factory, so far so good. He should make 2 more trips if I've got that part of the auto drive process sorted. He'll drop in there and let's try and keep this out of the manure. There we go. So how are the cows doing? Let's have a look. We're getting close to the point of 8 months, 19 months, 46 months. Yeah, so next month, these will give us some cows and then we might retire them, I think. They're off their top price. And these ones have got 2 months more. And we'll make a decision about whether we keep them for another breeding cycle. They're probably at their peak milk. And then in the pasture that we put up on the hill, I bought some more. So we've got a good number starting to develop up there. And the winter cow shed has plenty of space. That's only got calves in it at the minute, I think. Heifers. So that's all good. This is one of these jobs that you need the tank a bit closer to the field or a bigger tanker. I guess that's sort of the gap that Pumps and Hoses tries to fill, which I didn't feel like buying. I will be quite intrigued to see how much of the content from DLCs makes it across to the base game in due course. But yes, it does look like a dog wagging its tail. Might let's go that way. Has anyone seen any pictures yet of the what they're describing as ground deformation. That I haven't seen anything that I recognized as such. That doesn't mean it's an issue. It's just something I'm curious about. I understand over the weekend they clarified that it wouldn't support the digging of holes, so it's not terraforming. But sounds like it creates a surface layer. So slightly more sophisticated than tire tracks, but broadly speaking operating in a similar fashion. That sounds like the foundation for some interesting effects. And creates a scope for people like those that have made the various mud map mods to take it up a couple of gears. $11:30. Well, let's get one more load of slurry down. Yeah, that's sort of what I heard. But if at the same time, whilst they might not have implemented anything with it, what I'm kind of hoping is if they've also done a little bit more work with the physics system as it relates to tires and that sort of stuff, it's the sort of thing that lends itself to creating some interesting effects. There we go, just enough room for him to squeeze out of there. Anyone think that course was made for that tractor? But if you think about it, so, you know, these tire tracks are good, but they're not 3D and they're harder to make bumpy. So if the resolution of some of those effects is improved, then the stuff you can start to do, particularly in, you know, let's say off-field areas, it starts to get pretty interesting. If you're, you know, into the building side of things. Now, what do we got here? Where did we get up to? This row. The imprecise nature of this task appeals to me. Relaxing. turn it off and that turn would do me better, but never mind. Not using it as a at a prodigious rate. We can probably get done here on one more maybe. One more tanker, I reckon will go pretty close. It'll be one of those jobs I'll get almost to the end and then realise that I should have been turning it off in the turns, and then I would have got it done in the last tank. Before I go, let's take you off there. I wasn't watching that closely, John. That might be a good pickup. It's not supposed to. The sensors are supposed to work that way, but I have a healthy skepticism for the reliability of the sensors in precision farming. Let's put it that way. I fit them to the tractor, but beyond that, I don't bother too much with them. I was a bit concerned that it seemed to sound like at FarmCon that currently precision farming was not deemed to be part of the base game for FS25, which struck me as both odd and a little disappointing. But I guess it could also depend on your interpretation, because, you know, the bonus side of precision farming I don't think needs to go anywhere, but the ability to do variable fertilizing and seeding and those sorts of things strikes me as being a fairly fundamental requirement. So it could be just as simple as one of those things that's lost in translation between German developers and the English-speaking fraternity at the moment. Right. Now that should be his last trip to get feed. We'll see. We'll follow him around. Quite happy with that. It's working pretty well. You've got to be dropped at about that may be his last visit, in fact. And that's better. Let's just park you in here for the minute. We don't need to leave the trailer out on that field. So we did do 3 trips. Good. How much is in the feed mixer? Strawberry ice cream factory is out of strawberries. Okay, might as well turn those off for the minute. And you, a little bit of silage, plenty of hay. Just activate you for a bit. Top up the feed levels. Get this last load of slurry. Be nice if I backed onto the hitch, wouldn't it? There we go. So there's the ad you were talking about, John. Pre-order now. I might just keep my powder dry for a little longer. I don't see the need to part with my hard-earned in advance, given that I'm going to do all the work and electronically download it. Plus the fact Giants haven't done anything to convince me that you'll actually be able to get it off their site on the launch weekend. November is a good way off. And that's the thing. I mean, you know, you can order it the week before and get the whatever they're offering as the pre-order bonuses. I'm still trying to decide whether any of the pre-order things sufficiently take my fancy to warrant it. We'll see. Yeah, I was talking about that, I think earlier, Grant, maybe just before you arrived. I'm very much in that mode. Now, where did I get to here? There. Possibly even December myself. There's plenty of fun to be had with the current offerings. I haven't seen the MacDon, so I might have missed that in my brief sabbatical from the game. And so that brand was new to me just in the announcement or the early launch video stuff. The novelty of a USB key to turn your tractor on and off is mildly entertaining. It's a swather. Ah. I can safely say I've never used one of those. Not for any reason other than just it's never come up. I didn't run the maps that it seemed to be. Oh, we used it all. That used a lot of it, a lot more of it than I expected. Completely agree, Grant. They don't call it hype for no reason. But just think, what would they do after the event? They'd have nothing to post on social media, nothing to be outraged about. To laugh if you, I was in hysterics. There was a couple of trolls in. I watched. It wasn't. I didn't watch it live. I sort of watched it on 1 1/4 times speed or something. The little chat interviewee update thing that FSG and Argsy did on Saturday afternoon, and reading the chat scrolling down, there were a couple of guys in there determined to get a rise out of people for how rubbish everything was, and just like, really? That's what you're focused on? Yeah, well, that makes sense, right? I mean, when you think, so a good map, from what I've observed and learned, a good map is comfortably hundreds of hours in development, if not 1,000, and particularly if it's 4x. So there's not too many folks that can put that amount of time into something in less than a year and a half. So it stands to reason that the best maps are going to come towards the end of, well, certainly a second year, right? Because you got sort of 6 months after the new version of the game's announced for map makers to get their head around everything that's changed, because the documentation's near enough to non-existent, and then decide whether they're working on something they built before to bring it forward, or are they going to start new. Well, you know, so you just, it's not really surprising that the quality of the maps appears to have gone up a notch in the last couple of months, 3 or 4 maybe, because, you know, these folks have been working on stuff for a while. And the same is true with some of the more sophisticated mods. So that's all cool. I think the other thing for, you know, and I'll be count myself, you know, more experienced this time. I won't be a complete newbie. I mean, I was happy for the first year on FS22, largely playing base game. I don't think I added a mod to the game until you know, the June or July of any significance, because I was still finding everything I needed to do in the base game, and I didn't want to run the risk of adding something that I didn't know how it had broken. As well, just empty this out. There's no point taking more slurry up the hill. But when it comes to now, you know, it's like I was chatting with FSB the other day, and you say, oh, you know, we're sort of getting close and I've just about finished doing all things, and then I need, you know, we'll need to do some testing with mods, so I'm ready for all the people that complain that their favorite mod is broken. And I said, oh, I think I'm already potentially helping you with that, because the version I've been playing on's already got 250 mods added to it, and I can safely tell you, you haven't broken a single thing. So I haven't had a single mod conflict yet. That includes expanded pastures. So when we go to a new FS25, you won't have all that stuff. And so going back to basics will be, for me, a first time experience. Whereas I'm sure most of you, it's like, oh yeah, that's just the normal first few months of a game. I still remember the first, you know, few weeks of finding Mr. Sealy P's mod reviews and seeing what modders were starting to deliver, and being astonished at the stuff that was being delivered for free to go with this game that I still hadn't finished finding all the things that were in the base game. So, yeah, that's a I don't disagree. It's a really tough thing to do. Because unfortunately, once you unless you're a big organization, it's really hard to manage the non-disclosure side of things once you try and do that. And people being people, unfortunately, can't all be trusted regardless of what they say they're going to do. And it's just a shame, because it spoils it for all the, you know, the 1% doing the wrong thing, spoil it for the 99% that would do the right thing. But when you come into matters of IP, it's just really hard. Testing the maps would be difficult. Well, the other problem is I've seen enough to suggest I don't think their development practices are mature enough to be able to do it. So I think what you'll find under the covers, I think that's why we didn't see a lot of farming gameplay at the weekend, is I think their development process is quite feed your plants fluid, and that makes it really hard to get people involved early because you keep moving the goalposts, and it doesn't take long before smart people in that process say, forget it, you know, come back and talk to me when it's actually stopped moving. Right, so we've done that job. We need to plant grass. We don't need to plant it right at the moment. We could just roll forward. I can't, we're not looking to cut the grass before the end of the year. Right, so we only want to get one cut off the grass. We've got a few costs when we roll over. That 1,800 income you can see up there is the income from the horse adjustment. Oh, it's a bit more overcast. So, let's see what our crops are doing. Still doesn't look like anything needs harvesting, although we're getting close, as you would expect. Looks like the corn might actually still be a little way away. So we mightn't get to the corn today after all. We hopefully haven't run any of the animals out of food. Yes, we have. We ran out up there. Let's run around. Can't be for want of trying. I did put some more hay up there, but if it's not in the trigger, that'd probably be enough to do it. Oh, that was the other thing I wanted to try, was that chipper. We might do that too. So I put a bit more of the electric fence in. Yeah, that's why it didn't drop into the trigger. Just as well those bales aren't very heavy. The one thing about expandable pastures, I know he tried, from little bits I've read, to make it so that when you added pasture extensions, the feed increased. So if you have a look at the pasture here, the capacity in the pasture is only 11,250. If we have a look at the actual base, I'll come back to that in just a sec, Grant. So if we have a look at the, wherever it is, those with larger pastures, fenceless. There it is. So that's the base mod. So that only holds 15 cows and it only has 10,000 litres. He tried to make it so that the pasture extensions could add feed capacity, and it doesn't work. What I think he needs to do is just accept that this base piece needs to have like 100 or 150,000 litres capacity. You can still limit it to 15 cows, but you should be able to put as much feed as you'll require for the whole expanded pasture down at the beginning. Because there's no issue with having too big a maximum. It's when there's too small a minimum that it becomes a problem. So what I intend doing is just editing the mod to fix the max, and I haven't done that. But as you can see, it's working quite well, and I reckon it's really neat the way it operates. I quite like it. And I'm hoping something like that, well, I'd love it to be in base game, but if it doesn't, then I'm hoping that we can get it as a mod pretty quickly. Right, so to your point, Grant, it's not an easy decision one way or another, I suspect, and it's one I know that Farms in Briscoe is agonising over. And in fact, we talked a little bit about it. I'm sure he wouldn't mind me sort of sharing some aspects of that exchange. I'm just looking for something first. Forestry equipment. So this chipper looks pretty good. Well, interesting. So I wanted to give it a whirl. So I think what we're going to do is lease it. Yeah, $2,000, that's easy enough. And if it's any good, we might buy one for the farm. So, oh, cool. Okay. Yeah, I'm not worried about increasing the number for the base because I find it increases fine when I add the extensions. So that all works a treat. But yeah, coming back to everybody, so that the toss-up is, on the one hand, he wants the maximum number of people to play his map. And the user base of FS22 has clearly declined, and a lot of people now aren't playing and are waiting for reasons that really don't make a lot of sense to me, but okay, that's their individual decision. So given that's the case, where have I put... Let's get the fertilizer out of the ute. It's easier to do it that way. Yeah, so he wants the maximum number of people to play his map. Now, that's all well and good. You say, well, okay, so there's a good point for FS25. The conversion process from 22 to 25 is a complete unknown at this stage. And it's safe to say FSB has hundreds of hours invested in the current version of the map. It's not inconceivable that a new the conversion process could require more hundreds of hours. And when that's a complete unknown, it's kind of a risk. What you know for certain is if you wait until FS25 is out, just hardly anybody will play it on FS22. And it was kind of what was behind a bunch of the comments that I made at the start of the stream. I think there are quite a few people that are playing FS25s that are looking for quality and that will play it and will have a lot of fun with it, and that offers the opportunity to get some feedback and some, you know, tokens in the jar for the effort that you've put into it without changing the amount of work that you may or may not choose to do in the future to take it to FS25. So I see, from a selfish perspective, very limited downside to releasing it for 22. But that's not to say, you know, they're the things that he's got to weigh up. The features that have been hinted at so far are sufficient to lead me to be skeptical about claims that it'll be an easy process, because I don't think, for a start, it's a 4x map. There's no evidence so far that, as much as we want it, Giants are necessarily going to release a 4x map. So there'll be a whole bunch of consequences of that that'll be challenging and potentially untested. Not insurmountable, and maybe not proving to be a lot of work, but at the beginning, when you're doing it all for the first time, I wouldn't expect it to be fast and easy. There's nothing about how this engine works is either fast or easy. And then there'll be a whole bunch of new capabilities that, once you see them, you'll want to take advantage of them. You know, a la new textures between 19 and 22. It fairly quickly became evident when map makers didn't update. So that's my tuppence worth on that subject. Now, how does this just, what's it look for? It unfold it. I like the feeding in bit. We don't need a PTO by the looks. Start engine. So we have to get in it, do we? Wood chipper? No. Pipe out. Oh, okay. Oh, cool. Okay. Turn on wood chipper. Yes. If I... didn't want to do that. I've got to remember how to shut the sides of this. Don't really want to put them in there, do I? Let's... Is there a tow hitch on the back? There is. So... It's just... Oh, I've probably got to plough sitting in front of that, haven't I? Yep. Hook you under there to pull you out, I'm not sure. Yep. Of course it's... Ah! Come on. Too easy. Just as well a good hip and shoulder is still effective. Right. There. This ute has proved to be quite a useful addition. In addition to looking fairly cool, it's quite practical, even if the engine isn't quite what I'd want. Now, let's just... I'm intrigued to see. Oh, I can. You will track him. Okay. Turn on wood chipper. Doesn't need a power source. I'm loving that already. So it's just like a two-stroke chipper. Now, have I got any lumps of timber around here? How can I have completely cleaned everything up to the point where I've got none lying around? Got to be one. Oh, there we go. It's exactly the sort of stuff. Okay, so the chipper doesn't take wood. Oh, it's dead wood. Okay, maybe that's a good reason. That's a possible. That's a possible reason. Don't want to chop that tree down. Is there anything else over here? We'll give it a pass just for a moment on dead wood. Prepared to accept. It might be coded to ignore that. That's not dead wood. Sounding better. No. Huh. Oh, it's fussy. It's the first thing we learn. Doing it right, aren't I? It's turned on, piped in, should be fine. But, kind of defeats the purpose if I've got to prune it first. Was my immediate attraction, was being able to Or is that tree just generally misbehaving? Doesn't want to be nice at all. Let's go and get a regular piece of marketable wood. I can't get them out of there because they're actually loaded. What have we got down here? Anything, anything, anything? Running all over the countryside. I wasn't very organized, I give you that. Let's take that. You off. Well, let's take the big boy. Not quite what I had in mind. I was looking for the place for the offcuts to avoid having to drag them back to the I'll get in. Okay, he's too big. This is why we do experiments, folks. What have we got there? Lodgepole pine. You should work fine. What are you? 3.7 meters. Only 8 inches in diameter. It should go through easy. Actually making any wood chips. 94 litres. Whew. Why is it so hard to feed? So we ended up with 120 litres of wood chips, but using that puppy, that's a bit disappointing. I was hoping it would be far more effective than that. Not quite. Sad that I can't pop this guy in it. This one's got almost no value anyway. Okay. Well, as experiments go, useful, but not a ringing endorsement. It's definitely not going in there. Too fiddly to feed. I was hoping that I'd be able to pick up stuff with the just with the grapple and plonk it in here, and it would, I didn't mind if it took a little while to process, but that it would just feed in. But doesn't look to be the case. So what we might do, let's roll forward another day. Because we're going to finish in a minute. And see, did I run out of? Yeah, they've run out of food down in the horses, so that's good to know. Let's have a look. Right, so our soybeans are good. Our corn's not quite ready. So I think what we're going to do is what about the cows? Yeah, I agree. It's a bust. It's disappointing. I had higher hopes because I liked the design of it better than the Heimat one, and I thought there were lots of good possibilities, but she don't work properly. So that's why we test these things. So what we'll do, because otherwise I'll forget, is we'll return it, because we do not require you. The bale loader we're using. Where are we? It's 25 past. I'm going to use you for the soybeans, which we can do next time. I think we might leave it there, actually. I've got... actually, one thing we can do. I did plant some trees down here. Oh, deer attack. And let's put a bucket on. At least I didn't buy it exactly. Small mercies. What we need to do is turn the auger around. Having filled up the oats tank the other day, the one thing we didn't do is put any in for the horses. Slightly awkward. Duvlaki to maneuver. Now we can fill you with oats. Oh, I probably needed to lower him down, did I? Trying to find the fill point here. It could be a little bit problematic. Yep. Let's try that again. Now, hopefully that will work a bit better. There we go. That's what we were looking for. And that should give us some feed in the horses. And with that, I think that's where we might leave it, folks. The horses are fed. Where do they need? Let's have a look in more detail. So I got some base cell. They need some hay as well. So I need to bring a hay bale round. I need to tip for the, so the trigger for the hay on this shed is around here for some reason. You need to fill your oats up first, because if you try and feed from a bale, it'll put on all the bale. I don't even have a hay bale here, so I'll have to go and get one. But I'll do that later on. Thank you everyone for watching. Glad you could join me today. I'll be back on Thursday night on Panya. Be interesting to see if any of our intrepid travellers to FarmCon have turned up. But appreciate your watching. Thanks for being with me, and have a great week, everyone. Stay safe. See ya.